Hey, this is UFO Buster Radio, Manny Moonraker, and this is episode 215. I've been away for a while, but I'm a busy guy, and I got things to do. But I wanted to touch base with you guys, because there's barely been any UFO stuff coming out. It's been like, I don't know, it's like they're on vacation. They know Memorial Day is coming up, and, there's no probing to be done. I would think that as an alien from 4.2 far, that I would actually be waiting for dumb humans to be getting ready, getting their alcohol together, getting their weed and their methadone together to celebrate Memorial Day, because they're not going to wait till the actual day. I mean, we even know the cops know that because they've got freaking speed traps everywhere. But we know that they should be prepping right now. Like I would literally sit around as an alien waiting to see which rubber dicker is out there testing out their drug paraphernalia for New Year's. I'm sorry. Don't laugh at me. For Memorial Day, and I would be sitting around ready to probe someone. Like I'd shine it up, turn it sideways, making sure it's real shiny and stuff, and shove it up a human just to, test what's going on. By the way, I got a couple of special shout-outs that I want to give out right now. Even though this is episode 215 of the UFO Report News Update. Like I said last time, I fuck that up every single time because I can. I'm the host, and that's what I do. I fuck things up, and people do whatever the fuck they want with it. But I do it because I can. So, basically, Jay Rice, I hope you get better soon. Jay hit me up on Facebook, UBR Truth Seekers chat, and he said, Manny, I had a bit of an accident at work, and my arm is fucked up. I look like the Hulk from Avengers Endgame. One fucked up arm, and, I'm trying to recover. Right, Jay, come on, get it together. You got to be better than that. Don't be fucking around getting hurt. The other one, of course, is the Phil the Weather Guy. Listen, I was shocked last week when I found out that Phil the Weather Guy was listening to UFO Buster Radio. I was amazed. And you know what? This is a test, Phil. This really is a test to see if you're listening. So I hope that you turn around and say, by the way, Manny, I listened to your episode. Thank you for the shout out. I'm giving you a shout out, Phil the Weather Guy. And you got to love this guy. As much as I try to get him to give us some Dallas weather on the podcast, he just won't do it. By the way, if you want to know what I'm talking about, Phil the Weather Guy is actually with Dave in the Morning Show out in Harvard, Illinois, and Phil gives the weather basically daily. Recently, he had a bit of an accident, but he wasn't around every day. But even from his bed, where he was injured, Phil was still giving an update, and the Moonraker was still there to call him out, asking for Dallas weather. Phil, I got to say, you never really gave me any weather. That's kind of fucked up. But I know Phil is probably already tuned out about this point. Listen, I'm back. It is Thursday. I've been away for a while, but don't fret because I know you guys have the opportunity to listen to Daryl Sims, right? Deborah Burns from the Houston UFO conference, and as a matter of fact, it's Guy Dancer, the Paranormal and UFO conference. And listen. When I tell you, I was so excited to have these guys on. And the thing is that there was some issues with the recording because they were actually on video, and I was not, of course, because nobody wants to see the Moonraker locks. But, I was out on video, and I was not on video. They were. And so that kind of, listen, I'm going to be honest, that fucks things up. Video takes a lot of bandwidth when it comes to the internet. You guys know that. Stop fucking around. And the thing is that's what happened. So they were on video. I was not. And it took up a lot of bandwidth. And so the audio got fucked up. That's the way it is. But what I try to tell a lot of people is that after the interview, there was a moment where Deborah says, "Hey, I got a message for you from the other side." The other side. And this is what it was. And it was so inspiring, to be honest. It was amazing because I really do have issues with the situation, right? I have the situation, which is the podcast. A lot of times I don't feel people are listening. And let me tell you, Zechariah just tuned in. He's live. And I'm live right now. It's late as fuck, but I'm live. And, I struggle with this at least twice a year, whether or not the podcast should continue. Because, let me be honest, and I've said this a few times, and you guys, whether or not you believe me or not, a lot of podcasters are held by the gonads. Like, basically, they have the gonads, and these podcast hosts are basically with the hammer just smacking them things. Because they have us by the gonads. So, if I want to know who the fuck is listening, I've got to pay for it. I can't just say, hey, is Albert in Japan? Is he listening to me? Is Mustafa in Afghanistan? No, I can't even do that because I got to pay for it to know that information. And that's where they got us by the gonads. So there's a lot of things in the works to get rid of that. Because the thing is, I want to connect. And I told Deborah, after the podcast was done, I said, listen, Deborah, my issue is I want to connect with my audience. At UBR Truth Seekers is a perfect platform for me to connect because I do. You'd be surprised how many times a day I connect with the folks on there. I post messages. I talk to them on live, on chats, on Messenger. And I talk to them because they're important because they're the ones who keep me in tune with the podcast. Yes, I understand it's on Spreaker. Don't get me wrong. I get that. And yes, I understand that the UBR Truth Seekers is on Facebook. And people hate Facebook because Facebook is selling all their information to a bunch of people. And they're afraid about that, especially people who deal with UFOs. Like if you have an incident and, the men in black show up, you do not want to post your business on Facebook. I get it. But it's a double-edged sword, right? Because on Facebook, you've got groups. You've got people who are like-minded, people who have the same experiences that you just cannot reach unless you're on there. You can't go to the 7-Eleven, you can't go to Starbucks and sit down and say, hey, buddy, did you get probed last night? Oh, I did. And guess what happened? You can't say that. That just is not going to happen. So you need places like Facebook. You need places like Meetup or some shit like that where you can meet people who have these experiences. That's it. That basically is the truth. There's no way around that. Not a single way around that. Now, let me tell you, it's late night. The reason I'm doing the podcast is because it's been like 3 fucking days. And actually, it's been a few days since I talked to Daryl and Deborah. And to be honest, I was taking that information in, and that's why it's taking me some time to do a podcast. And the other thing is, like I said, Memorial Day's coming up. It's about 2 weeks away, but fucking aliens have been hiding somewhere. The only thing that's been any bit of news is the fucking Navy. The Navy, of all people, are the ones making the news. But if you want to call up right now, I am live on Spreaker.com. And the number is 972-290-1329. And I'm not going to tell you why that's my favorite number. And speaking to Deborah, there's a lot of things that happen by coincidence. And there's a lot of things that are meant to happen. If you know me personally, you know that 972-290-1329 meant something to me. It meant a lot. And that's why I fight every fucking year to keep that number for the podcast because it is something that means to me at the core of who I am. But unless you know me personally, you have no idea. And a lot of people know me personally that know the podcast and they listen to it. And some people are closet listeners. Like they'll sit in their closet. They tell their wife, honey, I'm going to go and listen to something. And they go to the closet. But they won't tell their family that they're listening to Manny Moonrick. Hey, by the way, I know this guy. He works with me. Oh, I know this guy. He comes in and buys a large coffee every other Thursday. Because people are closet listeners. Stop being a fucking closet listener. Just come the fuck out. Trust me, I would appreciate it. I would appreciate it immensely if you just come the fuck out. Because really, if you just listen to the last interview, you know that there is a reason for you to come out and talk about what you hear. I'm not selling you a book. I'm not selling you advertisement. I'm not selling you, a place to be, a place to get probed, a place to get kidnapped by someone from 4.24. I'm not doing any of that. I'm not telling you that you need to do A, B, and C. All I'm telling you is talk about what means something to you. Talk about your interests. Talk about the stuff that you feel is being hidden by the people who run not only this government, but every government on the planet. That's it. There is nothing more than that. And the funny thing about that interview, that last interview with Daryl Sims and Deborah Burns, is that Deborah, she has a lot of experience with the other side. Hashtag, quote unquote, bunny ears. But if you listen to the podcast had a different message. The podcast kept cutting her off when you talked about the things that she wanted to promote, because the message was, really, if you want to talk about something, you go ahead and talk about it. You lead people in that conversation and you let them use you as an avenue for that conversation. And that's what I got from it. Daryl Sims, he was the topic. Daryl Sims was all about ufology, all about things that happened to him when he was a kid, how he revolted and said, no, you're not going to fuck with my kids. You're not going to make my kids a tool for whatever the fuck you're doing. That's the topic that Deborah was talking about in her message. Now, there are many people out there who think that, these experiences are one gigantic global psychosis. Everyone that experiences this in the world is fucked up in the head. They're imagining this thing. They've watched E.T. too many damn times. Not only E.T., they've watched Aliens too many times. Fuck, if you really think about it, any rubber dicker that saw Avengers, all the movies, because they're filled with a bunch of fucking aliens. But you people who watch all of the freaking Marvel movies that half of the people in it were fucking aliens, guess what? You are part of a fucking psychosis. That's what a lot of people want you to believe. And if it is a psychosis, where is it coming from? How did people all around the world, not just in your neighborhood, not just your neighbor, not just someone in another state, but all around the world, how is it that we all have the same psychosis about aliens? It makes no fucking sense. And how did we all have the same psychosis before aliens were fucking popular? Before the Alien quadrilogy. Before Odyssey 2001 or 2002, whatever the fuck it is. How was it that before these movies came out and became part of the mainstream that everyone had the same psychosis happening to them? Right? Betty and Barney Hill. How the fuck did they start the psychosis before E.T. came out? Before there was even a Steven Spielberg putting out E.T. movies? How the fuck did we share that same psychosis? That is my question. Somebody answer that shit for me. That's what I want to know. It's simple as that. Answer that question for me. How did Betty and Barney Hill have their abduction situation happen way before E.T. got on a fucking bike with some kid and flew over the damn neighborhood? Before Sigourney Weaver hit the screen and decided to kill a xenomorph. Somebody explain that to me. And then I can say, shit, fucking directors and producers fuck the mind of the world, basically, with their alien ideas. You can't. You can't. You really can't explain that. That just does not work. Because the fact is that, half the world at a time that some of these movies came out didn't have fucking internet. They didn't have YouTube. They didn't have bootleg internet movies. So there is no way that they could have experienced the same fucking bullshit. And that's the way it is. That's just the way it is. Listen, the number is 972-290-1329. We're going to play a song right now because it is the dead of night. And the name of the song is Dead of Night. So I'm going to play this song just to give time for folks to catch the fuck up before we talk about the fucking Navy. Yeah, because I talked about the Navy a couple of days ago. Hashtag no fucks given. And about their, accepting reports from servicemen and updating their je ne sais quoi on how they accept this and kind of believing what the airmen say. But apparently, there's a catch to this. There is a catch. Damn, that song was crazy. Phil, I could imagine Phil, the weather guy, right now, just moving his head back and forth, and just just getting into it, and his wife saying, "Phil, what are you doing?" Yeah, listen, that's the kind of song that you need to have late at night for people to listen to. Now, so listen up. The number is 972-290-1329, and I've been working on convincing people to come on and talk on a podcast for a number of different things, right? And I can tell you honestly, I get a lot of, hey, take a look at this. Hey, take a look at that video. Check out this book. Check out that. Check out this. But, I want to say this. If there's any podcast that you listen to, I am true to who the fuck I am. And the fact is that hashtag no fucks given is something that rings true no matter what. You guys have to understand that. That's the way it is. But there was one person who reached out to me that I was like, shit, this is someone I need to have on the podcast. And his name is Jim Oberg. And some of you might have listened to him. You might have read his books or whatever. But he is a NASA person. He's been with NASA for some time as an engineer. And he's written a few books about the NASA moon missions. At one point, he was even commissioned to write a rebuttal to other conspiracies that people were putting out about NASA and the moon missions. And because of ABC News, that didn't happen. But I think that it's very possible that I will have Jim on here to talk to us about his take on it. And I can tell you, for some of the stuff that he already said, he really believes that what we see when it comes to near space objects, near Earth objects, actually, whether through telescope or by eyesight, is that a lot of things that we recognize as being UFO, probably thinking that it's of 4.24 origin, that these are really things that are made by mankind, which we do not know about because it's technology that we are just not allowed to have privy information to, which leads me to the news article. Yeah, so I talked about the Navy very recently, and I talked about the fact that they were talking about we're going to put new guidelines for Navy men and things like that to report situations that they see. Well, apparently that may not be entirely the case for us. I don't even know why I played that because it's just me, all right? Anyway, the news report is actually coming from the New York Post. The New York Post, my old hometown, New York, where I was born and raised. And basically it says, Navy says reported UFO sightings will be kept secret under new guidelines. Well, fuck. Are you guys serious? Nobody said that in the first report. Nobody said that right before they reported this, and then they reported about the Navy having these schematics that are apparently about a triangular-shaped craft that's going to use some kind of plasma technology to reach extreme speeds. And all of that shit, nobody said, hey, guess what? We're going to have the report. They're going to come in from our airmen, but you fuckers are not going to see it. This is what I mean. Give us the full fucking report. Stop fucking around. So the New York Post says, basically, the U.S. Navy has drafted new guidelines for collecting information on UFO sightings. Great. We heard that shit already, New York Post. Are you serious? You want to call yourself the New Jersey Post? But then this is what they do. They said information won't be made public, according to a Tuesday report, which is this last Tuesday. You guys know that all this information came out last week. Well, all of a sudden, they're saying, you public fuckers, even though I don't even know how this information got into the public, right? Because now it seems to me that people in the public should not have known about the fact that they have new guidelines for UFOs or UAPs. Now it turns out that they're saying that a Navy spokesman told the Washington Post that reporting UFOs would fall under quote-unquote privileged and classified information. Really? And what's the reason for this? So that military aviation safety organizations can, quote-unquote, preserve the free and honest prioritization and discussion of safety among aircrew. Did you guys at least shine that up real nice and enjoy putting some lubricant on that? Because are you serious about that? What kills me is they're saying it's going to be need-to-know basis. Basically, stop fucking around. Just tell us, need-to-know basis. But what kills me, it says we're going to preserve the free and honest prioritization and discussion of safety among aircrew. Ooh, I can't. I just can't do this. Can't do this. The New York Post goes on and saying in a quote that was released to Politico, it says for safety and security reasons, the Navy and the U.S. Air Force takes these reports very seriously and investigates each and every report. So what the fuck happened before this? What the fuck happened with ATIP? Why do we even need Elizondo? Why do we need To the Stars Academy or Deuce Bigelow's Space Gigolo if they're taking everything seriously? Can someone explain that to me? If they're taking these things seriously, why do we even... I mean, come on. Apparently, this program might have been in effect, back in 2012. And we don't need Blink-182's ex-drummer turned UFO person to tell us anything about it. We don't need Elizondo going in and sneaking shit out to tell us there's something going on. Zachariah posted a message here. He says, Navy personnel seem to have the good stories. Did my time in the Army to include training in a few deserts, but no close encounters. Well, Zechariah, if you go to YouTube, there's a lot of close encounters on YouTube. A lot of this shit is fake, but it is what it is. But the thing is, why would this message leak out that they have new guidelines, that they're building this so that air crew and members of the Navy and the Air Force can freely report what's going on without any repercussions, and then turn around and say, guess what, buddy? Joe Schmo, you're not even going to see this shit. You're not even going to get wind of it because it's top secret. Need to know, you don't know anything because we don't want you to know. What? Nothing's changed. There's nothing different about this. Now, let's be honest, if it's the same thing day in and day out, doesn't it then seem to be that basically what they're saying is, yeah, give us your report because we're going to rubber dick you like the old days and you won't even know what's coming. That's what it sounds like to me. On the face value, yeah, they're reporting to the public, your folks, if your husband comes home from the Navy or the Air Force and reports a UFO and it tells you about it, tell him it's okay. There's a new guideline. There's a new guideline for you to come in and say all kind of shit. It was an orb. It dipped into the water, pulled up the water, and took off into 4.2 far. It's okay for you to say that, airman. Because your wife says she read the guidelines on the New York Post or the Daily News or whatever the fuck newspaper it is where you're at. But on the backside of this, it sounds like it's going to be business as usual. Your career is not protected. They just want you to feel a little better about coming forward. They're going to stroke you a little bit. They're going to, caress you. They're going to offer you some lubricant. They're going to say, God, I'm glad you are serving this great nation. And then they're going to give you a desk job. Or you're going to be cleaning toilets. Or you're going to be somewhere peeling potatoes for the rest of your career until you give up. Or you might just disappear, as they say. Whatever it is, it doesn't seem good. And really, the fact that this comes out a week later, again, is this misinformation? Is this about just trying to trick someone to come forward? And why would they put that triangular craft out there? Why would they leak the fact that there was a patent for this new technology? There's all sorts of wrong with this. You don't have to be a scientist to figure this out. You don't have to be an attorney. You don't have to be someone in the know to know that the information is coming out publicly. It's fucked up. It's not clear. It doesn't make any sense. I'll play another song in the hopes that you guys will log in, chat, make a message, call. But if you want to know more about the story, the link is in the description. Feel free to visit the New York Post and what they said. And, geez, it's just 4.2 far. My name is Manny Moonraker, and I approve this message. Yeah, so we're coming up on the political scene in the United States. And yeah, so I'm going to start using that. I approve this message. I approve the message that says, stop listening to these rubber dickers who are trying to sell you a bag of goods that is full of shit. Plain and simple, there's no way around it. You can't buy this nonsense. Because if you look at history, it's all regurgitated. They just find different ways, different avenues. Whatever is the norm in the current culture, that's what they use to take you off track. Yes, there's UAPs, UFOs, whatever the fuck you want to call them, they exist. The question is, are you going to believe what you see? Or are you going to believe what someone tells you just because they need you to believe something different? Now, I'm not saying, here's the one thing. I'm not saying that people are getting probed on a regular. I'm not saying that people are getting abducted on a regular. But there's a guy out in Phoenix who a few years ago had a story by a guy named by Travis Walton who, it's hard to say that didn't happen. And maybe it did happen to him. Maybe it happened to him and it hasn't happened since. But can you refute? There's not a single person that has successfully refuted the evidence in Travis's case. So even if one story out of a million is true, even if one person has a true story, doesn't that require that everyone pay attention? This is not someone who cried wolf. This is someone who had an actual experience, went through lie detectors, had friends and families ridiculed, and still today still says the same story, still sticks to what's going on. Even the people involved in that situation still talks about it. Their stories still coincide, but yet we need to find a way for servicemen, airmen, and people in the Navy and Air Force to report what they see. It's a bit convoluted. It's a bit weird that in 2019 we actually have these problems. Fuck. What the hell is going on? This was episode 215, Manny Moonraker. I've been away for a while because I've got a lot of things going on, a bit busy in the afternoons. And to be honest, through the month of June, it's going to be a little sporadic, a little crazy. But like I said, I'm going to try to get some people on here to talk to you guys so you guys can listen to. Don't stop listening. Keep an ear out. Look for the notifications on Spreaker, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere you can listen. Google Podcasts. I'm still here. I'm just moving and grooving, trying to find a way to keep the podcast alive and interesting and to bring you people that will present their perspective. And I can't say enough. If you're in Texas, you want to go to Houston. You want to go to Houston May 18th. You want to go down there and experience what they have. And some people say, hey, Moonraker, it's Sky Dancer, it's Native American themed. Who the fuck cares? The fact is that Native Americans have talked about UFOs and aliens way before America was around. Maybe they know something the fuck that we need to know about. Maybe we need to discover that. And maybe Houston's Sky Dancer Paranormal and UFO Conference is the place to do it. Maybe that's what it is. Go down there. I can tell you right now that they were very adamant of saying that, hey, maybe the Moonraker should be down here in September to take part of the Houston conference. I'm about 75% sure I will be there. And in September, I want to make sure I have a quote-unquote UFO Buster Radio horde with me. You guys know that governments, cities, federal, local, whatever you want to call it, will not support your discussion of UFOs, aliens, or whatever the fuck, interdimensional, whatever it is you want to talk about. They're not going to support that. You have to find like-minded people in like-minded situations, in conferences, in meetup groups, in order to discuss this. But the thing is that you have to take it a step further. You need to be more than that group. You need to be more than that conference. You got to be able to take that information and take it to the next level. That's the only way to force the conversation. And you know what? And talking to Daryl Sims, and he had some support for To the Stars Academy. In many ways, he's right. Because of To the Stars, because of Elizondo, and releasing this information, there is an increased interest in UFOs. And a lot of it might be from people who already had interest. And they decided, oh, I've got some support. I got some support from some guy from Blink-182, and I've got some support from John Podesta, who can't fucking even put a right password into a government system. But I got some support from him because he's interested in it. I got some support from Harry Reid out in Arizona. Harry Reid, who keeps on saying, ex-senator, retired, that we need to investigate this a little more. That gives people a little bit more foundation to what they're interested in. That gives people a little bit more oomph, chutzpah, to being able to stand back, pick themselves up by the big girl panties, and say, hey, maybe I'm not plumb fucking crazy. Maybe I did have an incident. Maybe my mom or my dad or my brother or sister or my friend did have an incident. And maybe the government or people in power are not being truthful about what's going on. That's what I got from the Daryl Sims interview. So, yeah, listen, you guys already know, if you listen to the podcast for a while, I don't really support the ATIP situation 100% of the way. I don't support Deuce Bigelow, the space gigolo, 100% of the way. But I think Daryl Sims is right. There is a conversation being had, and it keeps it in the limelight so that people can feel free to discuss. And maybe these new guidelines by the Navy was a hack job to fuck people over in the public sector. But what they don't understand is that it keeps the conversation going. It lets us know that they are interested in what's out there, and it's things that they can't even explain. So don't get deterred by the whole idea that it's need to know basis, and only some people will be able to see this of X amount of rank or places within the military. Just know that officially there's a recognition that things are not what they seem to be. Things are not what they've told us in the past. Things are a little different. But this is episode 215. I am Manny Roomraker. Of course, follow me on Facebook, social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And don't be afraid to reach out and pass some information along. Let me know what you think. I'm about to sign out. And again, it's a dead of night, so we'll play Dead of Night again. For you guys who feel like you're in the dark, just know there's a light somewhere. There's a light somewhere in podcasting. There's a light somewhere in shows like Coast to Coast. But you're not alone, so you shouldn't feel that way. And with that, sayonara, muchachos.